Hey, welcome back, folks. Last week I talked about the differences between clients and customers, and I talked primarily about the relationships. So what's the your obligation to a client versus what's your obligation for a customer? For a quick review, clients are people that always come to you with their opportunities, and they're inclined to always do business with you, and your job is to retain them, but you also can't turn their work down because that would violate that client relationship. Customers are come bring every opportunity. Customers bring every opportunity to you as if it were new, and they are always starting the relationship over. Even if you've done work with them for years and you've done the same event for them for years, if they're always putting it out to bid, if they're always getting you to bid on the job, even though you're going to do it, you have a customer relationship. And we treat them a little bit differently. Now, I want to talk about the mechanics of that in today's podcast. So get your notepad out because there's some great information here. Welcome to your weekly dose of uncommon sense, helpful insights, and tough love. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. The Intentional Success Podcast comes to you through the generous support of Mertz Crew.
Mertz Crew helps top AV companies book quality AV freelancers. Your choice, your rates. We handle contracts, insurance, and payments. You save time, cost, and reduce risk. Start today at mertzcrew.com.
Now on to the show. So what is the real difference between a client and a customer? And I want to talk about value. What is the value of a client versus the value of a customer, and how do we determine that on any given project? So we've learned that when we have a client, a university, an association, some other organization, it can be a corporation, who comes to you for everything, whether it's because you're geographically they're your neighbor, they're in your region, they just you have a great working relationship, or you've made a connection with some key individuals inside of that company who have the privilege of funneling all the business to you. Clients are great, and if you seek clients, awesome, but there's some things that you need to understand about how we create value in that relationship. Customers, on the other hand, the value is always in the job at hand. Clients were looking at the entire book of business and determining the value. Customers were looking at each project by project. We've all been in that situation where the customer says to you, hey, I'd really like you to do this job, but I need it at this price. I'll make it up for you on the next one. If a client says that for you, you say, no problem. Thank you for taking care of me. We'll get you going here. Your price is great. When a customer says that, there's no guarantee there's ever going to be a next one. There's no track record that says there's going to be a next one. And depending on how this one goes, there may not be a next one. So every time you do business with a customer, you need to look at the value of that particular project in isolation from all the other projects, because they have not established a client relationship that says they deserve the consideration for all the stuff they've brought your way. What about all the stuff they didn't bring to you? That's the big question. So when a customer is leveraging you for your long-term relationship, remind them of all the times they didn't hire you or didn't even let you know there was an opportunity for you to look at. So internally, how do we deal with the differences between these two things? So clients, when we're dealing with clients, if we have a book of clients in our portfolio, we want to optimize them for the maximum revenue they can bring for us. We don't have the luxury with clients of saying, no, we only do certain types of jobs for you. We kind of have to do all the jobs that come with being their supplier. And it might mean, for some companies, you're not going to be a good client-vendor relationship for some organizations because you don't have diversity inside of your company to meet all of their needs. But if you're a full-service event company and you do, main tent shows and, arena shows and breakout rooms and everything in between, then you're in a much better position to be a valuable vendor for a client. And your job is to capture as much of their revenue as you possibly can, the gross profit will take care of itself. So when a customer comes to you and asks for a project at a certain price, you're going to look at your resources and decide whether or not it's worth it for you to do it. When a client comes to you with a project for a certain price, you're going to go, oh, this is another $50,000 of revenue from my $1 million client. I am happy to do it. My margin might be a little bit lower on this particular job on this particular week with this particular set of criteria, but that's okay. There's $950,000 of additional business where my margins will be higher. When a customer comes to you, we're going to optimize for the resources at hand. If they come to you with $50,000 and it's a big ask, you might look at your warehouse and go, hey, I got a bunch of stuff sitting here. I can afford to do this job this time at this price. But it doesn't mean I'm going to do this job at this price the next time they call, because every job gets to be renegotiated. So for customers, we optimize the value of every opportunity based on our resources. We look at the costs that we will incur on that job and we will add margin to it. And we probably want to hit a target margin. Now, if we're slow, that target margin might be a little bit lower. If we're busy, it might be a little bit higher. But it all really depends on the depth of our resources that are available. When a client calls you, if they have a $5,000 project and you can turn it down, maybe you will, or maybe you'll just sub it out, even if it costs you $5,000 to have somebody else do it for you. That's what you do for clients, okay? You optimize for revenue. We don't turn their business down because we're busy, okay? We take the revenue that they bring our way and we make it work as best we can. And in the long run, we have years and years of relationships with lots and lots of revenue. Not every job's going to be a winner, but we have more opportunities to make up any differences or even the occasional loss because they're bringing you everything first. So the value when we're putting together a budget for a particular job for a client is, how much do you want to spend? Let's get the most we can for the money that you have available for this project. When a customer comes to you, you say, how much do you want to spend? So, well, I don't know. You haven't written me a proposal yet. Now you know that you're dealing with a situation where you're going to have to take a look at your resources. You're going to have to put your best number out there, and you have to create a situation where you can get a negotiable opportunity to close the deal. But they're asking you to see, hey, is this a really good time to buy from you? Right? You know, it's like going to the car dealer. You know what a great time to buy a car is? On the last day of the month. Somebody's got a quota to make. They're probably going to be a little bit more negotiable, right? If you got cash on hand, they're going to be even more negotiable. Now, on the other hand, for customers, okay, what I'm going to say is that for customers, they're looking for that weak moment in your schedule where they can get more bang for their buck. So take a look at your resources, decide whether or not you want to give it to them. Now that we've established the difference in the value, let's talk about the user interface, the salesperson, or God forbid, nobody's in sales. We're all project managers. Okay, I get it. Clients need what I call the account executive relationship. Somebody with continuity, somebody to help them navigate. They may not be available to take every call because they have other clients, but they will make sure that their clients get taken care of. And when my account executive's portfolio of clients gets big, either I peel off some to another account executive or I get them some help, right? We get them some customer service reps to help back them up while they maintain that relationship. Customers, on the other hand, we need account managers. Account managers will manage the customer who could be a regular, knowing that every single job, we have to lift it from the bottom all the way up. When a client brings you a job, you're 90% of the way there. You just got to meet the criteria and close the deal. When a customer comes to you, you're 10, 20, 30% of the way there. And the account managers have to focus on winning each and every opportunity. So they're managing the account by managing every opportunity. Account executives manage the overall relationship and the continuity and the retention. So it's a different level of individual. Account executives they're not unicorns. There are people who are very good at these long-term relationships. There are account managers who are very good at transactional relationships. It doesn't mean that they're an order taker. Order taker is one of the pejorative terms that we use to describe somebody who's basically just building a quote and sending an email back saying, here's the price, do I get the job or don't you? No, there is still relationship nurturing that has to go on. But account managers do it one job at a time. Account executives do it one relationship at a time. So there are different interface, there are different people, and depending on your organization, you might need both of them or multiples of them in order to do this. I'll go one step further and we'll talk about business development. Where does business development fit into all of this? Well, if you're seeking clients, business development understands the profile of a client, and they know that developing a client starting point takes a lot of time and effort and nurturing to do. It could be 2 or 3 years before you get to a chance to quote on the next contract for a multi-year association meeting. Okay. In the meantime, business development is nurturing all of that, making sure that we're in line, making sure that they have enough market intelligence that we can propose to them effectively. And then hopefully they will then become a client, because it's too hard to change suppliers because the bidding process is so convoluted. Business development that is looking for customers is a slightly different animal in that most customers are RFP based. And so if you're chasing RFPs, your business development relationship is pretty simple. Keep in touch until the RFP becomes available. When's the next time when can we finally bid on your job? Okay. Whereas account executives, business development that is going to go to an account executive is really looking for that longer term relationship. And when the time is right, they will undo that bow tie of that one-to-one nurturing they've been doing and immediately turn it into the diamond and bring all the powers that be from both organizations together and see if we can glue them together from this point forward. In a customer relationship, the business development person is bringing in a single opportunity. We are going to turn that over to the account manager, okay? And then the team will win the job based on its merits, okay? Can we retain that customer for future work? Of course we can, okay? Can business development be involved in that? Why not? Why not keep out there? Because a customer goes back into your sales funnel as a prospect. A client goes back into your sales funnel as an opportunity, which means the next job they have is already on your radar map and you're already expected to be involved. The customer, on the other hand, is a prospect once again, and next time they have an opportunity, they decide whether or not to move themselves down into the funnel, into your opportunity level, so that you have a chance to quote on their project. So understanding the difference between customers and clients, the interfaces, and the value will make a huge difference in how you fill the top of your funnel. You need the right tools for the job, but you got to understand who you're selling to first. Thanks again for listening.
If you liked this episode of the Intentional Success Podcast, please leave a review and don't forget to like and subscribe. This podcast has been brought to you by the helpful folks at Mertz Crew.